A pleasant day to each and every one of you, Hospitality Management 4th year students. Welcome to Tour 3 Tourism Planning and Development class. Today we are going to talk about Module 1.1, which is the basic concept in tourism planning and development. I hope you already downloaded the PDF file so each and every one of you can still relate to the discussion today. So let's browse our first module. So Module 1.1, Basic Concept in Tourism Planning and Development. For the learning objectives, after reading this module or after you study this module, you should be able to, number 1, discuss what is tourism planning and development. Number 2, discuss the term tourism policy. And number 3, reiterate the tourism planning dimensions, benefits, and factors to consider. So now let's begin our discussion. Okay, so for our discussion, what will be the meaning of the term planning? So last time we already discussed the terms tourism, planning, and development. But to further discuss it, when we say concept, okay, so from the word itself, concept, it means these are the so-called ideas, okay? These are the ideas or the views about a particular subject. So the next one is the meaning of planning. So when we say planning, according to the definition here, it is the process of setting goals, selecting alternative courses of actions to achieve these goals, and implementing the chosen alternative and evaluating the choices to find out if it is successful. So basically, when we say planning, this is the first or one of the first basic functions of management. Okay? So, planning, it means we are going to process or choose an appropriate goals. Okay? So, pipili tayo kung ano ba yung appropriate na goals, ano ba yung appropriate na actions for us to determine kung ano yung mga gagamitin nating strategies in order for us to come up with a successful plan and eventually to make our plan successful. Okay? So next one is the term, planning is the key to the success of any activity. Okay? Planning is the key to success. Okay? So the definition behind this one is about planning gives us direction. Okay? So kapag nagplano tayo, alam natin kung saan tayo patungo. Ano yung path na dapat nating puntahan, ano yung path na dapat nating iwasan. So it makes us feel that we aim for something. Ibig sabihin, we are on track when we plan something or when we are planning. So the next one is the need for tourism planning. So it says here that in tourism, success is neither guaranteed nor permanent. So we all know that nothing is permanent in this world, okay? Even your love life, okay? So just joking. So when we say guaranteed, it means promise or there is an assurance. Okay, so we will encounter here the tourism area life cycle. So later on, we will discuss it. So it says here that many areas have been through a series of expansion programs that attain saturation, then go into the decline stage. Okay, so the next one is the tourism policy. So when we say tourism policy, these are the set of rules, regulation, guidelines, directives, and development or even promotion objectives and strategies that provide framework within which the collective as well as the individual decision directly affecting the long-term tourism development and the daily activities within the destination taken. So when we say tourism policy, these are the what we called set of decisions. Okay? These are the set of decisions. These are the sets of practices. Okay? That is driven by the government. And sometimes, this tourism policy is being collaborated with the so-called private sectors. Of course, there is a policy for us to achieve our objectives. And why is tourism policy is important? Because if there is a policy, if there is a protocol, or if there is a standard that we are following, we can minimize the what we called negative impacts. And of course, if we minimize the negative impacts, we can reap a success in the future. Okay? So we can be able to attain the so-called sustainable tourism development. So, tourism plan is an output of tourism planning process. Of course, when you plan and your plan is successful, it is being, let's say, recognized, therefore, you can have a tourism plan. So, basically, tourism plan is an output of tourism planning process. So, tourism planning, so we have here gathering of and evaluating information, prioritize current tourism development issues. So why is it tourism planning is important? So for us to address and eventually give solutions to the different tourism development issues. And of course, imagining a desired future state of tourism in the destination. That is why in our module, or in the, let's say, Edmodo class post that I recently posted in our Tour 3 Edmodo class, there is a videos or there is a YouTube link wherein you can watch what is the National Development Plan of the Philippines rather. Okay, so if you watch the video already, you can see and recognize what will be the National Tourism Development Plan of the Philippines this 2016 to 2022. And of course, the last one, choosing from a number of alternatives for achieving them. So it is very important that when we plan, we have alternatives. We have backup, we have contingency plan. Because we might plan a certain things that might not work in the future. Or let's say, ito yung mga plano na hindi siya gagana, hindi siya appropriate. That's why we need a backup plan, we need an alternative plan also. So next one is the seminar workshop. Of course, we all know that when we conduct a seminar, when we conduct a workshop, or even join a seminar or workshop, it helps us to define the desired future state. Okay, so in this case, we are going to define the desired future state of tourism in the destination in the forms of the vision and mission statement. So if we are going to recall, when we say vision, these are the clear sense of purpose. Okay? So you have a clear sense of purpose. Ibig sabihin, alam mo kung saan patungo yung pinaplano mo. You have a clear sense of path or direction. But when we say mission statement, so mission statement or mission, these are the specific tasks that a group or an organization must do. Okay? So ano ba yung mission statement ng National Tourism Development Plan? So malalaman natin yan as we go along the way and as we discuss the lessons in this subject. So we also have here the term ocular visit. So I know that alam nyo na tong ocular visit. It's because during our events management class or even before, we are already mentioning this term. So when we say ocular visit, we are going to the sites. Okay? We are going to visit the sites and we are going to take note of the quality of the tourism supply components. So ano-ano ba yung mga tourism supply components na yon? So it can be the accessibility, if the place or if the tourist destination is accessible, the attraction itself, okay? So the attraction itself, and at the same time, the accommodation, the food and beverage services or the food and beverage establishments in the area, and of course, if there is an openness to the community of the tourism industry. So the next one is the interview with local people. So in this case, there are several terms such as vision. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, these are the desired future state of a destination. And of course, when we say goals, these are the broad-based target for tourism. So, pag sinabi nating goal, ito yung gusto nating makuha, ito yung target natin for a certain plan. And of course, we have also objectives, target that is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So, in this case, pumasok na naman yung term na SMART. Okay? So, na lagi nating nai-encounter before. And of course, we have also the term strategy, which means the methods by which objectives will be achieved, and of course, refers to the means of accomplishing the policy or plans or the action itself. So when we say strategy, ito yung mga methods, yung mga actions na dapat nating gawin. So I think strategy is synonymous to the term tactics. Okay? So the next one is the term action plan. So it provides a detailed list of activities that need to be done within each strategy. Of course, if you have a plan, you should have an action plan. So para alam natin kung ano yung mga list of activities, okay? List of things na dapat natin gawin doon sa create natin na plan. So all of this has a relation to tourism planning and development. So the next one is the tourism planning dimension. So we have here 4 tourism planning dimension. So we have here the time or the level, and then the time frame, scope, and the space, which we will discuss one by one. So first is the level. So when we say level, it depends on the scope and detail involved in a tourism plan. So itong plan natin na to, it can be international level. Okay, so when we say international, these are the worldwide. Okay, ibig sabihin global. Any countries can implement such kind of plan. And then we also have the national. So when we say national, it is just within a country, okay? And when we say regional, so let's say for example in the Philippines, we have here the 17 regions. So it depends upon if your plan it depends upon if your plan will going to focus in just a particular region or will cover a few or more regions. And we also have here provincial, okay, municipal or city level. Let's say for example here in Cabanatuan City, Baguio City. And when we say site level, there is a particular tourist site that is just being developed or may particular lang na isang tourist site or tourist destination na kung saan dun lang nakafocus yung ating plano. Okay? So that is for tourism planning dimension under the levels. So we also have here the National Tourism Development Plan. So this particular figure or picture, we are going to discuss this during our Zoom class. So I will swipe to the right for the next discussion. Okay, so we also have here the cluster approach and the convergence approach. So when we say cluster approach, so it says here that in the pursuit of sustainable tourism development, the NTDP continues to adopt a cluster approach to support the development of the identified 20 tourism clusters comprising 49 tourism development areas. So these clusters and development areas are designed to increase the length of visitor stay and expenditure following the right combination of tourist attractions, transportation networks, of course, the attendant urban capitals, service centers, and key tourism infrastructure. So in cluster approach, our main goal here is to bring efficiency to the management and marketing tools for a certain tourism destination and local economies. Okay? So ang ating aim dito is for us to design a particular plan or marketing strategy kung paano ba natin mapapatagal yung mga visitors within a certain destination. Kasi alam naman natin na kapag yung mga visitors o yung mga turista, the more na nagtatagal sila sa isang destination, the more na marami silang nai-spend na money, which is nakakatulong doon sa mga local businesses or establishments within the area. So we also have here the convergence approach. So when we say convergence approach, it says here that to successfully implement the identified development programs of the NTDP, the principle of convergence is being sought to promote strong institutional partnership through shared responsibilities among national, regional, and local tourism stakeholders. This approach is envisioned to maximize efficiency and inclusiveness in the execution of tourism program and the realization of our national and local targets. So pag naman sinabi natin convergence approach, from the word itself convergence, two or more things come together. So ibig sabihin dito, we are going to maximize the efficiency and inclusiveness of the tourism program. Mas pagagandahin natin yung mga plano in order for it to be efficient and effective. So paano mangyayari yun? Of course, there is a collaboration na mga institutions, okay? There is a partnership between the tourism stakeholders para mangyari yung successful plan. Okay? So that is the cluster approach and convergence approach. So the following tourism planning examples here from the different levels as mentioned earlier, so i-discuss po natin to during our Zoom class. So I will swipe again to the right for us to discuss further those really important details in the lesson. So the number 2 tourism planning dimension is yung tinatawag natin na time frame. Okay, so alam naman natin pag sinabing time frame, ayan, so there are just a limit. Okay, so merong mga limits na wherein those time frame is applicable sa pag-create natin ng tourism plan. So it can be short term. So pag short term, yung plan natin is only available for 2 years or less than 2 years. So pag naman medium term, so 2 to 5 years, and pag naman long term, 5 years and above. So basically, si National Tourism Development Plan, nandito siya sa medium term. So let's say for example, yung latest na National Tourism Development Plan is 2016 to 2022. So it is a 5-year or 5 years plan. So yung coverage ng pinaka NTDP. So the next one is the scope. So pag sinabi nating scope, yung sakop, okay? So a tourism plan may be comprehensive or focus on one or just a few aspects of tourism planning. So comprehensive tourism plan is also known as the what we call master plan. Okay? So a master plan is actually composed of several smaller plans. So pag sinabi nating tourism master plan, usually these are the long-term development plan. So ito po is tumatagal ng 10 to 20 years. Okay? So si master plan tumatagal siya ng 10 to 20 years. Okay? So it is a long-term development plan na wherein mas magiging or mas magkakaroon ng organization pagdating sa mga plano ng mismong government when it comes sa tourism development at the same time sa promotional efforts ng pinaka-destination. So dahil nga po siya is 10 to 20 years yung kanyang long-term development plan, so we can implement and strategic vision. Okay? So makakapaglagay tayo ng mas magandang strategy, mas magandang action plan. It's because mas madedevelop natin or mas magkakaroon tayo ng sustainable tourism. Kaya nga siya tinawag na master. Ibig sabihin parang, let's say, napaka-comprehensive niya, napaka-detailed, na for us, ang mangyayari kapag na-implement ng maayos itong master plan na to, magbe-benefit yung mga local residents, yung mga investors, yung mga tourism operators, at the same time, yung mga turista na pupunta sa particular country or particular area. Okay? So that is a master plan or the so-called comprehensive tourism plan. So the next slide is about the spatial units. Okay? So when we say spatial units or spatial units rather, the space covered in tourism planning is called a tourism development unit. So meron tayong may encounter dito na words such as tourist site. So when we say tourist site, this is an area that contains one or more tourist attraction. So ano ba yung example ng tourist site na sinasabi natin? Okay? So for example, sa isang tourist site, let's say Baguio City. So within Baguio City, napakaraming mga iba't ibang tourist attraction. Okay? Napakaraming iba't ibang lugar mo na pwedeng puntahan na wherein ma-enjoy talaga yung or mag-e-enjoy talaga yung mga turista. Kasi di ba minsan, for example, pupunta lang tayo sa isang lugar, wala naman tayong ibang makikita na iba pang attraction kung hindi yun lang. But when we say tourist site, it contains one or more tourist attraction. So when we say tourist attraction, it is a physical or cultural feature of a particular place. It may be any object, person, place, or concept. So napag-aralan nyo naman yan before, nung first year pa kayo or even second year, kung ano si tourist attraction. So now is we have the 4 categories of tourist attraction. Okay? So ano-ano nga ba yung mga categories ng tinatawag natin na tourist attraction? So first is we have the geophysical, landscape, and aesthetic. So pag sinabi nating geophysical, landscape, or aesthetic, dito nakapaloob yung mga attraction such as mountains, bodies of water, yung mga scenic views na pwede lang tayong mag-sightseeing or observation, or example niyan, di ba? Yung nag-trending na movie sa Netflix, yung True Night and Day. So yung pinaka-main attraction doon or yung pinaka-talagang na-amaze yung mga viewers is yung Northern Lights na tinatawag o yung Aurora Borealis, if I'm not mistaken. So yun is matatagpuan sa Iceland. So pag sinabi naman nating ecological and biological, so we are going to value here signs and scenery. For example, bird migration. So we are just going to observe or bird watching, okay? Fish hunting, okay? So anything na may kinalaman sa signs and sa scenery. Next one is the cultural and historical. So for cultural and historical, of course, we are going to value here history, arts, and architecture. So example nga po niyan is yung Golden Gate Bridge of San Francisco. Ano pa ba yung mga cultural or historical sites? For example, dito sa Cabanatuan, yung Plaza Lucero. Okay? Or kaya naman yung architectural design ngayon ng St. Nicholas Cathedral. Kasi di ba dati hindi naman ganun yung itsura ng cathedral dito sa Cabanatuan. Ngayon mas pinaganda na siya. Of course, through the application of architecture. So it says here that there are 2 kinds of attraction also. We have the primary attraction and the secondary attraction. So ano nga ba yung pinagkaiba ni primary at ni secondary? So when we say primary attractions, these are where the resources originally exist. Okay? Ibig sabihin, yung primary attraction, nandito talaga yung lugar o yung attraction o yung let's say, yung gusto nating makita. Kaya siya tinawag na primary. Ito yung pangunahin na lugar na gusto natin makita. Example, the Boracay Island. So bakit ba tayo nagpupunta sa Boracay? It's because gusto natin makita yung magandang beach ng Boracay. So pag sinabi naman nating secondary attractions, these are the places that complement, okay, the primary attraction. Example po niyan, halimbawa, dahil ang primary attraction natin is Boracay, ang secondary attraction na pwede nating gawing example is halimbawa yung mga hotel accommodation sa Boracay. Okay? Minsan kasi 'di ba, dahil sa ganda ng location, sobrang gaganda rin ng mga infrastructure such as yung mga hotel accommodation nga na tinatawag natin. So, pag nagpunta tayo sa Boracay, of course, kailangan natin mag-book ng hotel o ng matutuluyan. So, minsan yung mismong hotel natin o yung lodging accommodation, nagiging attraction na din siya. For example, sa Baguio City, sikat na sikat yung hotel na Baguio Country Club, Manor, di ba? Yung Lemonade Hotel. It's because naging famous na siya sa mga tourists. And minsan, yung iba't ibang hotel accommodations na yan, may mga ino-offer din silang kakaibang mga services na mas nakakapag-attract pa sa mga turista. So of course, the term location, pag sinabi lang nating location, so yung tourist attraction pwede siyang nasa city or urban, pwedeng nasa rural areas, coastal areas, beach, island, mountain, historical town, or even other kinds of location. So the next one is the Tourism Development Area. So ano ba yung sinasabi natin na TDA? So it is an area that is designated for possessing an important site or group of tourist site. So any town or city that has one or more tourist site can be considered as tourism development area. So example po nito halimbawa is yung Baguio City as mentioned earlier. So dahil nga sabi dito, it composed of one or more tourist site, so pwede nating i-example dito is halimbawa within Baguio City, may mga tourist sites such as Mines View Park, Burnham Park, Cafe in the Sky, okay? So we also have the Mansion, we also have the SM City Baguio, we also have night market and so on. Ibig sabihin sa isang specific na city or town, maraming mga tourist sites kang pwedeng puntahan. Okay? So, one or more tourist sites. Okay? So, I hope clear sa inyo yung ating discussion. So, if ever na medyo nalilito kayo or gusto nyong balikan, you can just replay this video. So, next one is the tourism cluster. So when we say tourism cluster, it is composed of two or more tourism development area. So let me just show you an example. Okay, so I'm going to put a screen or another screen. Ayan. So we have here the Palawan Tourism Cluster. So kung nakikita nyo, so, merong tatlong tourism development areas within Palawan. So, we have the TDA1, which is the Puerto Princesa. TDA2 is the San Vicente, El Nido, and Taytay. And TDA3 is the Southern Palawan. So, dito, makikita natin dito yung tinatawag natin na tourism circuit. Kasi sa tourism circuit, it defines a particular area na merong theme. So, ano yung pinaka-team ng Puerto Princesa or ng Palawan mismo? So, ang team nila is the Coastal Island Resort, Ecotourism, Sightseeing, MICE, and of course, Adventure. So, ibig sabihin, sa isang particular TDA or sa isang particular area, pag pumunta ka ng Palawan, most likely ang mga activities or mga areas na makikita mo is may kinalaman sa mga resort, sa mga beaches, sa ecotourism. Pwede kang mag-sightseeing or pwedeng doon mismo sa Palawan i-conduct yung tinatawag natin na MICE o yung meetings, incentive, conference, convention, and of course yung exhibition. And syempre, hindi mawawala yung adventure. So yung adventure na yan, it can be water adventure, land adventure, okay? So depende sa mga pwedeng i-offer na activities ng isang area. So that is what we call tourism cluster. Okay? So, next one is the tourism corridor. So, tourism corridor, it refers to a route defined by a team spanning several countries or even continent. So, ibig sabihin, when we say tourism corridor, it is basically a path that connects a cultural or natural values that is attractive to tourists. So, halimbawa, sa Philippines, diba? Pag sinabing Philippines, napakarami nating mga magagandang natural resources, ang dami nating beach, kaya yung ibang mga foreigners or ibang mga turista from other countries, talagang pinipili nila na magpunta sa Pilipinas or magbakasyon just to visit those tourist attractions or tourist sites. Okay, so we also have here tourism destination. So it is a physical space in which a visitor spends at least one overnight. It includes tourism products such as a support services and attraction, and tourism resources within one's day return travel time. So when we say tourism destination, this is the physical space. Ito yung lugar, ito yung destinasyon na pupuntahan ninyo, na wherein you can spend at least overnight, okay, or even beyond. So ayan nga, papasok na dito yung types of visitor, the tourist and the excursionist, yung nabanggit natin last time. Okay, so also we have here the tourism characteristics and their planning implications. So some of these are being mentioned few years ago nung nagsisimula pa lang kayong mag-aral and sinisimulan pa lang din na i-introduce sa inyo kung ano ba si tourism. So all of this will be mentioned during our Zoom orientation or during our Zoom class. Okay? Some of the terms are really familiar or common na sa inyo. For example, tourism is a composite product. Okay? It means it composed of one or more products. Of course, sa tourism, it comprised of goods and services. Tourist destinations are intangible. Of course, hindi mo yan mahahawakan. Hindi mo yan basta-basta, let's say, mapupuntahan. Not unless you plan to book a travel services or travel package. Word of mouth and social media review. So alam naman natin yan that one of the most powerful marketing tool is a word of mouth. Tourism destination have long gestation period. So yes, it has a long gestation period, pero once na hindi siya properly ma-conserve or ma-preserve, nagkakaroon ng problema. So very capital intensive, it requires a lot of investment, money, para mas pagandahin yung lugar at para mas i-maintain. Nature and culture, subject to uncontrollable external forces. So dahil nga syempre, pag sinabi nating mga tourism destination or areas, most likely naiisip natin mga natural resources. So kung may mga unexpected calamities such as mga bagyo, ganyan, lindol, tsunami, so nagkakaroon talaga ng problema kasi nasisira yung mga tourist destination or even yung mga tourist sites or tourist attraction. It is highly dynamic and competitive industry. As we all know, tourism industry is one of the greatest contributors sa economic growth ng isang bansa. So what are the benefits of tourism planning? Of course, new learnings sa part ng mga gumagawa ng plano, and of course sa part din ng mga nag-aaral with regards to tourism planning. Avoidance of past mistake. Yes, because nagpaplano tayo because we want to avoid the negative impacts na nangyari na before. Or even we want to lessen the negative impacts and as much as possible, positive impacts yung ma-contribute natin sa bansa at sa mga tao. And of course, networking, building trust and support among various stakeholders. So, hindi gagana ang isang plano kung wala tayong mga stakeholders. Okay? So, next one here is the planning prevent waste of time, money, and effort. A written plan avoid trial and errors, which can lead to escalated costs and longer project duration. So there may be an absence of plan, poor planning, or good planning. So nakadepende lang sa tatlo na yon. So we also have here the factors to consider for effective tourism planning and development. So ano ba yung mga factors o yung mga bagay na kailangan natin i-consider or bigyang halaga for us to create an effective TDP or TPD rather. Of course, availability and quality of tourism relevant data. Of course, dapat may data ka. May mga informations ka na pwedeng i-gather. Availability of tourism planning expertise. So you need the help of people na talaga namang they're experts sa pag-create ng plano with regards to tourism planning. Type and variety of tourism resources. Culture of the destination resident. Mahalaga din yan. Kasi when we plan let's say, when we plan to a particular tourist site, or tourist destination, kailangan involve yung mga residents within the area. Kailangan malaman natin if they will agree to the plan, kung may mga benefits ba silang makukuha doon, or kung wala naman silang benefits na makukuha, they might disagree. Okay? So, hindi sila papayag na pagandahin mo yung lugar, i-renovate mo, or even other plans. So, geographic location, it is very important also. The target market. Of course, syempre, we want to boost our economy. So we must know kung sino ba yung ating target market. Sino ba yung gusto natin ng mga tao o mga turista na pumunta doon sa destination. Stage in the tourism area life cycle, which is the last discussion for this session. National tourism policy and legislation, perception and attitude of stakeholder, awareness of external forces as mentioned earlier, and financial capital requirements. So it is very important, lalo na ngayon na may pandemic, hindi makapag-travel yung mga tao, hindi nila magawa yung mga travel plans nila before. So therefore, yung ibang mga establishments or yung ibang mga organizations, ito yung time nila na para mas pagandahin yung mga tourist destinations na yan or tourist attraction. Para kapag naging okay na, okay, medyo unti-unti nang nalalesen yung pandemic dito sa bansa natin, pwede na natin buksan paunti-unti yung tourism industry. So we also have here the kinds of tourism resources in adjacent destination. So ano-ano ba yung mga qualities na dapat natin i-consider within a certain destination? Of course, the originality. Being first to have a particular attraction. So gusto natin yon, being original, walang katulad, walang kamuka. Indigenous or indigenousness, having something that can only be found in your destination. It means there is a uniqueness. Okay? Lalo na kung halimbawa mga, let's say, nature-based tourism yan. So sa particular area mo lang makikita yung particular kind of plant na yon, particular kinds of animals, na sa ibang lugar wala naman nun. Okay? So next one is the authenticity. So when we say authenticity, it is being true to tradition. Is being true to tradition and methods of preparation. Ibig sabihin, walang halong chemical, sabi nga nila. Authentic, okay? Parang similar to original. Okay? We also have uniqueness, not found anywhere. Historicity, being significant for a particular event. Ibig sabihin, itong lugar na to, may ino-offer siya or meron siyang historical value. Magnitude, being the tallest, smallest, biggest, scariest, or anything superlative. For example, di ba, the Mall of Asia, it is the biggest mall in the Asia, sabi nga nila. Okay? So, excellence, having the highest quality. Okay? So, for the last one is we have the stages in tourism area life cycle. So, ito na-encounter nyo na before sa ibang subject, but the difference is, ang pinag-aralan nyo doon is yung product life cycle. Diba? But in this case, we are going to talk about tourism area life cycle. So, ano ba yung mga stages na na-encounter ng mga areas within tourism? For example, number 1 or the stage 1, exploration. So, alam naman natin na kapag bago ang lugar, gustong-gusto yan ine-explore, gustong-gusto yan ng mga tao. Naku-curious sila. That's why few adventurous tourists, sabi nga dito, visits the sites with a few public facilities. So, syempre, kapag ang isang lugar is bago pa lang siyang na-introduce sa market, so, ibig sabihin, wala pang masyadong mga public facilities na pwedeng gamitin. Kasi, kaka-open pa lang. Okay? Kaka-open pa lang ng particular area or destination. They are attracted due to natural physical features. So, the next stage is the involvement. There is a limited interaction between the tourist and the local community. So, dahil nga naging adventurous na yung mga turista, gusto na nilang mag-explore, ngayon meron na silang involvement. Pero limited pa din yung interaction. Okay? Limited pa din yung interaction nila doon mismo sa local community. And sa second stage na to, they can avail the basic services and there is a need for advertising. So medyo nagiging malago na or nag-a-upgrade na yung mga services or mga facilities sa stage 2 ng tourism area life cycle. And of course, kapag marami ng mga tao ang nakakilala sa particular destination, dapat hindi pa rin matapos yung tinatawag natin na advertising or promotional efforts. Dapat i-promote pa din natin, gumawa pa rin tayo ng mga video advertisements Okay? Mag-post pa rin tayo sa social media, mag-print pa rin tayo ng mga tarpaulins, mga brochures na ipapamigay natin or ipapakita natin sa mga tao. Number 3 or the stage 3 is the development. So, continued growth in the number of visitors arrival, additional tourist facilities, and promotional efforts. So, dahil marami nang ang tao ang na-involve, marami ng tao ang pumunta sa area, ngayon, hindi dapat matapos din yung development ng lugar. So, syempre, ang mga tao, they are very curious, marami silang mga gusto or iba't iba yung mga preferences ng mga tao. That's why, yung tourism industry, or yung tourism sector, hindi sila maubusan ng ideas. Kapag naging sikat na yung isang lugar, dapat i-develop pa rin nila. Okay? Meron pa rin silang something new to offer sa mga turista. And of course, we have here the consolidation. So pag sinabing consolidation, the growth rate of visitor arrivals begin to decrease. Yan. So na-reach parang ito na yung nasa highest peak na tayo, bumababa tayo. So, ibig sabihin sa consolidation stage, okay, nababawasan na yung mga turista. Kasi naging trending na to before, yung area na to, marami nang pumunta, nagsawa na sila. Dahil nga walang masyadong development sa area, ngayon ang gagawin ng mga caretakers or ng mga organizations involved in the particular destination, masahabaan nila yung tourist season. Okay? So, dito sila magpo-promote, dito sila magbibigay ng mga discounts para from being a, or let's say, from a decrease of tourist arrival, magi-increase pa siya. Okay? In the hope na papatukin pa rin, or let's say, pupuntahan pa rin ng mga turista. So, the stage 5 is the stagnation. The peak number of tourists and capacity levels are reached. So, andito na tayo. Sa peak level, sa pinakataas, na-reach na natin yung dami ng turista. Siguro ito yung magandang example nung pinasara yung Boracay. Diba? Nung nagkaroon ng rehabilitation sa Boracay. It's because sa sobrang dami ng mga turista na pumunta sa Boracay, milyong-milyong turista, imagine ninyo every summer, gaano kalaki yung negative impact nun sa sustainable tourism ng Boracay. Okay? So sabi nga natin, kung milyong-milyong turista yan, doble din or baka triple din yung mga negative impacts na nadala nila doon. For example, yung dami ng basura, 'di ba? Ano yung mako-contribute ng dami ng basura na yun sa climate change? So, ibig sabihin, nag-overlap or merong tinatawag na domino effect. So, the destination has a well-established image. So, hindi na doubt yun na talaga namang kilala na during a stagnation stage yung destination. But no longer popular and the lodging facilities begin to erode and turn over. Kaya nga yung ibang hotels, nagsasara sila sa particular destination kasi nga po, 'di ba? Wala na silang masyadong marketing strategy, wala na silang something new to offer sa public. At alam naman natin na tayo mismo, kapag wala na tayong, let's say, hindi na tayo nakaka-avail ng mga new services or wala nang bago sa market, usually nagsasawa tayo. Humahanap tayo ng iba nating paglilibangan, ibang lugar na pupuntahan, na wherein mas ma-enjoy natin yung time natin. Okay? So, the last stage is the post-stagnation stage. So, options ranging to rejuvenation to decline. Levels of change within the positive or negative in the number of tourist arrival. So, ibig sabihin, andito na tayo sa decline stage. From the highest peak, from low peak to the highest peak up to the decline stage o pinakabababa na, okay? So, ibig sabihin, there is a positive or negative number ng mga turista. So, pwedeng tumaas, pwedeng bumaba. So, eventually, sabi ko nga, kung gusto pang ipagpatuloy na gumanda yung isang lugar, kung gusto pa siyang pagpatuloy na puntahan ng mga tao, so wag tayong magsawa na i-develop yung lugar. Okay? So that is those are the stages in tourism area life cycle. Again, exploration, involvement, development, consolidation, stagnation, and post-stagnation. So for the closing remarks here, so we have here the Republic Act 9593 or the Tourism Act of 2009, translated into plans in the NTDP for 2011 to 2016, Section 2 of Republic Act 9593, the state declares tourism as an indispensable element of the national economy and an industry of the nation's interest and importance, which must be harnessed as an engine of socio-economic growth and cultural affirmation to generate investment, foreign exchange, and employment for continue to mold an enhanced sense of national pride for the Filipinos. So dito lamang sa Republic Act na to, sinasabi that tourism is an indispensable element. So anytime tourism can be successful, okay? So those resources, the natural resources can be eventually decline, pwedeng masira, pwedeng mag-grow. So kaya sinasabi dito, we must harness tourism as an engine of socio-economic growth. Okay? So the society will benefit, the economy will benefit, and at the same time, the cultural affirmation of the local communities. Okay? So in this sense, sabi nga dito, the national pride for all the Filipinos. Of course, we are proud that the Philippines is one of the countries na talaga namang gustong-gusto ng ibang-ibang or iba't ibang mga nationalities. And we are proud of that. As long as, of course, we need to maintain the beauty of the natural resources or the resources here in our country. Okay? So that concludes our lesson, Module 1.1. So I hope that you all learned something about this lesson. So if you miss some topics here, you can review or you can rewind or replay the video. Okay? So thank you very much for listening in our first module in Tourism Planning and Development class. Thank you everyone and keep safe.